Welcome to this explosive breakdown of one of the most shocking moments in daytime television history, Samuel L. Jackson storming off the set of Good Morning America after a blistering clash with none other than George Stephanopoulos. Picture this: it's a crisp autumn morning in New York City, the kind where the leaves are turning gold and the energy in Times Square is buzzing with the promise of another ordinary broadcast day. But ordinary? Not today. Samuel L. Jackson, the iconic actor who's commanded screens for decades with his gravelly voice, unapologetic swagger, and roles that range from the wisecracking Nick Fury in the Marvel Universe to the vengeful Jules Winfield in Pulp Fiction, arrives at the ABC studios for what was billed as a routine promotional spot. His latest film, a high-octane thriller titled Echoes of Vengeance, is set to hit theaters, and the buzz is electric. Directed by a rising star in Hollywood and co-starring some fresh faces alongside Jackson's veteran presence, the movie promises pulse-pounding action sequences, intricate plot twists, and Jackson's signature monologues that leave audiences on the edge of their seats. He's no stranger to the morning show circuit over the years. He's charmed hosts with anecdotes from sets like Snakes on a Plane. You remember that infamous trailer where he declares, "I have had it with these motherfing snakes on this motherfing plane?" And shared laughs about his golf obsession, his cameos in everything from Star Wars to The Incredibles, and his unyielding advocacy for social justice. But this visit, it was meant to be light, talk about the film stunts, maybe a clip or two, and a nod to his enduring career that's grossed billions at the box office. The Good Morning America set, with its gleaming white counters, vibrant graphics, and that ever-present sense of polished urgency, is alive with the pre-show hustle. Co-hosts Robin Roberts, Michael Strahan, and George Stephanopoulos are in place, their earpieces buzzing with producer notes. George, the silver-haired political powerhouse who's transitioned from White House briefings under Clinton to this sunny morning gig, adjusts his tie, flashing the trademark smile that's equal parts gravitas and warmth. Little does anyone know, the air is thick with unspoken tension. Whispers in the green room beforehand hint at Ida Jackson, ever the straight shooter, had reportedly pushed back against a producer's suggestion to tone down his comments on Hollywood's diversity issues. But as the cameras roll and the theme music swells, all seems well. Good morning, America. We're thrilled to welcome the one, the only, Samuel L. Jackson. Booms the announcer, and there he is, striding in with that effortless cool, purple blazer hugging his frame, a grin splitting his face as he high-fives Strahan and hugs Roberts. The audience see a mix of live studio guests and virtual viewers tuning in from coast to coast erupts in applause. It's the perfect setup for stardom, a moment where celebrity and morning coffee collide in feel-good harmony. Yet, beneath the surface, something simmers. Jackson settles into the couch, legs crossed, ready to dive into his passion project. He starts strong, describing how Echoes of Vengeance flips the script on revenge tropes by weaving in threads of racial injustice, drawing from real-world headlines that hit too close to home. "This ain't just explosions and car chases," he says, his voice that deep rumble that commands attention. "It's about a man pushed to the brink by a system that chews up folks like him and spits 'em out. I poured my soul into this role because stories like this, they matter." The hosts nod appreciatively. Roberts chimes in with a question about his preparation. Strahan jokes about wanting to co-star in the next one. It's flowing, engaging, the kind of segment that tracks up shares on social media. But then, George leans forward, his eyes, sharp from years dissecting policy debates, lock on to Jackson's. "Sam, you've always been vocal about representation in Hollywood," George begins, his tone measured but probing, like a senator prepping for a hearing. "With this film, you're front and center, but let's talk rela. Do you think the industry has truly changed since your early days, or is it still the same old boys club?" It's a fair question, one that's danced around in countless interviews. Jackson pauses, sips his water, then unleashes. "Changed? Hell, George, it's evolved just enough to pat itself on the back while keeping the door cracked for a few tokens. I've been in this game 40 years, busting my ass from blaxploitation flicks to blockbusters, and yeah, doors opened, but they're still bolted shut for too many brothers and sisters out there. The studio hums with agreement from some audience members, but George's follow-up slices deeper. Tokens? That's a strong word, Sam. Isn't progress incremental? Look at the Oscars, more diversity now than ever. Jackson's jaw tightens. Just a fraction, but enough for those watching closely to sense the shift. Incremental? Man, that's code for slow as molasses while the fire rages. I've said no to roles that caricatured my people, turned down paydays to make space for others. But every time a film like mine succeeds, they act like it's a miracle, not the talent we bring. The exchange crackles now, the banter edging toward confrontation. Strela tries to lighten it with a quip about Jackson's badass energy, but George presses on, his political instincts kicking in. So, what would real change look like? Should we be mandating quotas, or is that reverse discrimination? The word quotas lands like a grenade. Jackson's eyes narrow, his voice dropping an octave. Quotas? George, you of all people know about rigged systems. This ain't discrimination, it's correction for centuries of exclusion. You wanna talk reverse? Try being the blackface in a sea of suits, proving your worth twice over every damn day. The audience murmurs, a ripple of unease spreading. Roberts glances sideways, her co-host radar pinging, but before she can pivot, George doubles down. Sam, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. As someone who's covered civil rights, I admire your fire. But isn't there a risk of alienating allies with that rhetoric? And there it is, the spark that ignites the powder keg. Jackson uncrosses his legs, leaning in, his presence filling the screen like a storm cloud gathering force. Devil's advocate? Nah, that's easy when the devil's already got your Rolodex. Allies? Real ones stand in the gap, not question the width from the sidelines. The studio falls into a stunned hush, the only sound the faint whir of cameras. This isn't banter anymore, it's a reckoning, raw and unfiltered, broadcast live to millions. As Jackson's words hang in the air, you can feel the temperature drop, the polished facade of morning TV cracking under the weight of truth too heavy to gloss over. And folks, we're just getting started. This clash is about to escalate in ways no one saw coming, turning a simple promo into a cultural flashpoint that echoes far beyond the studio lights. As the tension coils tighter on the Good Morning America set, Samuel L. Jackson's frustration boils over into a masterclass in controlled fury, his every word a precision strike against the veiled presumptions of privilege that George Stephanopoulos unwittingly or perhaps knowingly unleashes. Let's rewind that pivotal beat for a moment, because understanding the undercurrents here is key to grasping why this interview detonated like a blockbuster finale. George, with his Ivy League Polish and decades navigating the cutthroat world of broadcast journalism, has built a career on probing questions that dance the line between illumination and interrogation. From grilling presidents on foreign policy to unpacking election scandals, he's the guy who makes guests sweat just enough to reveal their core. But today, facing Jackson, a man who's stared down aliens, drug lords, and dinosaurs on screen, and off it, confronted racism head-on through his NAACP involvement and blunt Hollywood call-outs, George might have miscalculated the opponent's playbook. Jackson, at 76, isn't just an actor, he's a cultural force, a survivor of the 70s theater scene where he kicked a heroin habit cold turkey to chase his dreams, emerging as the highest-grossing lead actor of all time. His activism isn't performative, it's etched into his DNA. From marching for voting rights to producing documentaries on HBCUs. So when George floats that devil's advocate line, it's not just a journalistic taika, it's a trigger for Jackson, who hears echoes of every boardroom dismissal, every articulate compliment laced with condescension. Alienating allies? Jackson repeats, his voice rising like a preacher hitting the crescendo. George, the allies I need ain't the ones clutching pearls at the word quotas. They're the ones dismantling the damn doors, not debating the hinges. The live audience, a diverse crowd of early risers clutching their Starbucks, shifts uncomfortably. Some nod vigorously, others exchange wide-eyed glances. Robin Roberts, the steady hand of the trio with her own survivor story from breast cancer battles and on-air poise, attempts a bridge. Sam, you've mentored so many, tell us about the young talent in Echoes who embodies that change. It's a deft pivot, one that could steer back to safer waters, but Jackson, locked in now, waves it off gently but firmly. "Robin, I love you for that, but let's not sidestep this film. It's got a lead written for a brother who's raw, real, not the sidekick trope. But George here wants to know if I'm scaring off the folks who greenlight those roles." Answers yes, a good, fears a teacher. Stephanopoulos, undeterred, his brow furrowing in that way that's endeared him to viewers as the serious host, counters with data. "But Sam, Nielsen ratings show diverse casts boost viewership by 20%. Isn't that progress we can celebrate without the fire and brimstone? It's a classic movie, a deflect with stats, neutralize with nuance." Yet to Jackson, it rings hollow, like quoting GDP growth to a family evicted from their home. He lets out a bark of laughter, sharp and devoid of mirth. "Celebrate, George? That's like toasting the crumbs while the bakery burns. I've celebrated enough empty wins to first black this, token that. Now I'm demanding the feast." The exchange accelerates, words flying like sparks from a grindstone. Strahan, the ex-NFL star turned affable host, chimes in with his baritone warmth. "Come on, fellas, let's talk football. Sam, you'd make a hell of a coach with that intensity." It's meant to diffuse, but it lands flat, underscoring the disconnect. Sports analogies for systemic inequities? Jackson shoots him a look, half amused, half exasperated. "Michael, I'd coach alright at drill I'm on plays that actually level the field, not the ones where the refs look the other way." Now the whole panel's engaged, the segment stretching past its allotted 5 minutes as producers in the control booth frantically signal through the glass. Off camera, whispers fly, cut to break. "No, let it try dia, this is gold." And gold it is, raw and unscripted, the kind of television that blurs the line between entertainment and education. Jackson leans back, gesturing expansively, his gold cufflinks catching the light. "Look, I get Ida morning shows about uplift, not uprising, but if we're gonna talk my movie, we gotta talk why it exists." Echoes of vengeance ain't fantasy, it's mirror to the streets, the boardrooms, the newsrooms where cats like George ask questions that keep the status quo cozy. Stephanopoulos bristles visibly, his smile tightening into a line. "Sam, that's a cheap shot. My career's been about holding power accountably. Clinton, Bush, Obama. I've grilled them all on race, inequality." Jackson nods, conceding the point with a tilt of his head. "True that, and respect. But accountability starts in the mirror, brother. You cover the fire, sometimes you gotta fan it to put it out." The audience erupts in scattered applause, the energy electric, divisive. Social media, dormant during the weather segment, awakens with a vengeance. #JacksonVsgma trending within seconds, tweets pouring in. "Sam just bodied morning TV." Versus Stephanopoulos asking the tough questions we need. Back on set, the clash deepens as George pivots to Jackson's personal journey. "You've spoken about your stutter as a kid, how acting freed your voice. Isn't this interview doing the Samia freeing a conversation?" It's a vulnerable hook, one that could humanize, but Jackson sees the trap. "Reduce the rage to therapy speak." "Freed? Hell, George, my voice was always very stutter and all. What freed it was folks listening, not patronizing. And right now, feels like we're back to square one." The hush descends again, heavier this time, as Jackson's words settle like ash after an eruption. Roberts, sensing the tipping point, jumps in. "Sam, your resilience inspires millions to tell us, what's next after this film?" But the damage is done. The air crackles with unresolved heat, and Jackson's eyes, those piercing orbs that have sold fear and fury in 100 roles, flicker with something deeper, a disappointment, perhaps, or the weary recognition that some battles replay eternally. As the segment teeters on the brink, one thing's crystal clear: this isn't ending with a hug and a plug for the movie. The storm's building, and when it breaks, it'll shake the foundations of not just GMA, but the fragile decorum of celebrity discourse itself. With the studio lights beaming down like interrogation lamps and the audience holding its collective breath, the verbal joust between Samuel L. Jackson and George Stephanopoulos hurtles toward an irreversible fracture, exposing the chasms between lived experience and observed expertise in a way that's as uncomfortable as it is riveting. Dive deeper into this maelstrom, And you'll see how Jackson's retorts aren't mere barbs, they're layered with the wisdom of a man who's navigated fame's treacherous waters while championing causes from capital punishment reform to environmental justice through his partnerships with groups like the Sierra Club. At this juncture, as Robin Roberts' rescue question hangs unanswered, Jackson rises slightly from his seat, not in threat but in emphasis, his hands animating like a conductor summoning symphonies of sentiment. "Next, George, after films like this, it's always the Sammy fight, the good fight on screen and off, but I'm tired of the dance, you know? Come in, charm M, drop truth, watch M squirm, then smile for the lens." It's a meta moment, the interview commenting on itself, and Stephanopoulos, ever the strategist, seizes it. "Squirm, Sam, discomfort's where growth happens. Remember Get Out? Jordan Peele made us squirm. And it won an Oscar." The reference is apt. Peele's horror satire on racial microaggressions was a cultural earthquake, one Jackson himself praised in past interviews for its unflinching gaze. But here, wielded by George, it feels like appropriation, a white host invoking black art to school its creator. Jackson's response is lightning. Jordan made us squirm because he showed the monster in the mirror, not because he debated its manners. You invoking him now? Like using my hammer to fix your fence. Laughter ripples through the crowd, tense and relieved, but George's face hardens, his voice gaining an edge honed from cable news wars. "That's unfair, Sam. I'm not the enemy here. I'm facilitating dialogue, without pushback. It's just monologue." Pushback of the word ignites Jackson like dry tinder. He uncurls his fingers, pointing not accusatorily but emphatically at the host. "Dialogue. This what you call it? You lob, I spike, and the ball's still in your court cause the net's tilted. I've dialogued with directors who said no to my vision, producers who lowballed my worth to hell, even fans who love the cussin' but clutch when I call out cops. But this feels scripted, like you are reading from the How to Handle the Angry Black Man playbook." Gasps Echo Strahan's eyes widen. Robert's hand flutters to her necklace. The control room erupts in muted chaos, producers gesturing wildly, one mouthing go to commercial. But the director holds, transfixed by the train wreck's magnetism. This is peak TV, unpolished and profound, the sort that spawns water cooler debates and viral clips destined for late-night monologues. Jackson continues, his cadence rhythmic, almost poetic, drawing from his theater roots where soliloquies were weapons. "See, George, you got the McCalls, you navigated power corridors, asked questions that toppled titans. Me, I got it clawing from the margins, stuttering prayers in church basements, auditioning in rooms where my face was the audition. So when you push back on my push, it ain't growth, it's gatekeeping." Stephanopoulos, cornered but composed, fires back. "Gatekeeping? That's paranoid, Sam. This show's platformed voices like yours for years, so Oprah, Obama, you name it. The name drop parade only fuels the fire." Jackson chuckles, deep and resonant. "Paranoid? Nah, prepared. And platforms? They're ramps, not roads, so wide at the top, narrow at the base. Obama got the stage cause he played the game, I play it too, but I kick the table when it's rigged." The audience divides audibly now. Cheers from the back, murmurs from the front, mirroring America's own schisms. Roberts, the anchor in the storm, interjects with urgency. "Gentlemen, we're all about solutions here at GMA. Sam, how can we bridge this in Hollywood?" Jackson turns to her, softening momentarily, his respect for her evident. "Bridge? Start with listening, Rabin, and not interrogating. Let the stories breathe without the autopsy." But George isn't done leaning in. He delivers the haymaker. "Listening's easy, Sam, but action? That's where rhetoric meets reality. What tangible steps have you taken beyond the talk?" It's the accusation of performative activism, a trope that's dogged figures from celebrities to politicians. And it strikes Jackson's core. His face, usually a mask of cool defiance, flashes raw hurt before hardening into resolve. "Tangible, George, I've endowed scholarships at Morehouse, my alma mater, for kids who look like me, $100,000 a year. No strings. Produced docs on voter suppression that aired on BET, reached millions. Walked picket lines for writers' strikes, stood with BLM when it cost gigs. You want receipts? My life's the ledger. The studio vibrates with the weight of it, the intangible made flesh in Jackson's unyielding stare. Stephanopoulos pauses, perhaps realizing the depth he's plumbed, but pride or protocol pushes him forward. Admirable, truly, but in this polarized world, doesn't that intensity risk turning off the very change-makers you need? And there, in that question, lies the impasse, the chasm between allyship as intellectual exercise and solidarity as shared struggle. Jackson shakes his head slowly, the fight ebbing into exhaustion. Turn off? Good, to let them flicker out if that's their light. I need warriors, not spectators. Silence blankets the set, profound and prickly, broken only by a distant cough from the wings. The segment clock ticks mercilessly. They've overrun by 3 minutes. The next beat of weather with a hurricane update looms, yet no one moves. Jackson glances at his watch, then at the hosts, a decision crystallizing in his gaze. This isn't discomfort, it's dismissal, the point where words fail and action speaks. As he shifts, preparing to rise, the weight of history presses down on not just his, but a nation's unfinished dialogues. From Selma marches to modern reckonings, the storm isn't brewing, it's here, and its fury will soon propel one of Hollywood's giants from the couch to the exit, leaving a wake of stunned faces and seismic ripples across media landscapes.